Hello and welcome to the Exponential Potential Podcast, helping you thrive in times of change, with your hosts Claire Oatway and Jennifer Evans, aka ZenJen, along with expert guests sharing with you uplifting, inspiring and insightful stories, groundbreaking, rule-shaking ideas, fresh, new, exciting perspective, and truly transformational tools and top tips, as well as generous gifts for you, our listeners, on an array of topics, all designed to help you thrive in all areas of life. So sit back and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Exponential Potential Podcast. And today I'm with the fabulous Angela Wilson, international bestseller and author of Living Out Loud. We will talk about that in a minute and what that means. And today we are going to be talking about noticing, first of all, what living out loud means. Some of the top three things why women don't necessarily live their dream life or the life they deserve, and talking about losing your voice, what that means, and how to express yourself, and some other things I'm sure will crop up as well. So thank you very much and welcome, Angela. It's lovely to have you here.
Oh, thanks so much, Jenny, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm so grateful for this opportunity.
Wonderful, wonderful. So a little bit about Angela. Angela is the founder of Angela Unlimited. And as I said, she is an international best-selling author with her book, Living Out Loud, as well as an international speaker. She helps women around the world examine and overcome the mindsets that have been imposed on them, either by others or themselves, and which is now impacting and limiting their lives they live now. Angela's first steps are to have a conversation regarding money. And we'll be talking a bit about how money is related to living out loud. And so that women can really see that they can live by their own stories. And from here, Angela helps you open up and start seeing the possibilities that are around you and to stand strong in your power. So I'm very excited to have Angela on. She is an absolute genius, not just around money, but really, truly walking her talk about how you live out loud. And before we dive in, I just want to ask you, Angela, when you start with a conversation regarding money so that women can see they can live by their own stories. What is it that you mean by that?
So what I mean by that, Jenny, is that so we heard so many stories from the time we were little until wherever we are in our life. We've heard a number of stories and we take them on. And then what happens is those stories, because they creep into our subconscious and what have you, we're living by those instead of our true self.
Mm-hmm.
And this plays out in our money because, so I'll give you an example from my life. So I heard a lot when I was younger that, you didn't talk about money. Money was never ever to be in the conversation, and you did it in isolation, basically. And that's what I thought you had to do. So I didn't have any conversations about money. I should say I didn't have any conversations. And this is in my personal household back in the past. Now money is completely in pretty much every conversation that my husband and I have. But it's that when it's not in the conversation and you're hiding out in it, it really has this power over you. It's interesting. I was talking with some people, some women the other day, and I said, hey, anybody like a Harry Potter fan, it's like that. You can't use that, that name, right? And now there's this huge power. It's the same thing when we're hiding in our money. It has this power over us, and money's just supposed to be a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool to get us to living our best lives.
It's an interesting conversation because actually I had a conversation last week with my mum And we've talked before about the relationship of money and what I learned growing up around money. And even though the amount of work that I've done around that, it still creeps in. It still is, can be underlying. And the beliefs around money are you have to work hard, it doesn't grow on trees. And even, if you have a lot of money and you weren't born into it, you're doing something wrong to have got that money. And in the other, it's greedy. And then the money shame. And I experienced money shame. We've talked about that before, about being ashamed of where you are financially. And I was having a conversation last week with my mum, and I was having my brother, I love him, and he's very, very protective over me. And he said several years ago, I wish Jenny would get a proper job, because he doesn't, in his mind, what I do isn't a real job. He wanted me to be secure and financially stable and in a proper, well-paid job that's got security. But none of that happens now anyway. No job has got financial security. No. But it's interesting because even though I'm successful and I love what I do, I still felt that I'm not. I wanted to show my brother, look, look how successful I am. Look at my, I am so financially successful. And yes, I am, I'm making steps to get there. But my perception was I'm not where I want to be to my brother.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to show him my perception of his perception of what financial success is. And there was a lot of shame attached to that. It was really, it felt horrible.
Yeah, it really does. And thank you for giving that example, because that there's a lot of women that feel that way. And we're trying to prove our worth. Prove our worth because of money, because that's it's one of those things that people can understand. But here's the other side of that is that's a symptom because it's in your money. Something else is going on in your life. So there's somewhere else in your life that you're also trying to prove yourself.
And it blocks you, doesn't it? It was one of those blocks.
It does. It really does. And then, and I always say life is a journey. And as much work as we do, there's always another level. There's really
level. Yeah.
And, it's interesting because one of the things that I find is, as women, we don't celebrate ourselves. So we'll celebrate like the really big accomplishment because we can do that, but we don't celebrate all the other things. And even those big ones, not always, but lots of times we downplay them because it's that, oh, well, I don't want to look like I'm bragging. Oh, I don't want people to think, to judge me. I don't want, blah, blah, blah. It's just,
and it's
money.
And it's also, we get there, like I live an amazing life in Italy. And there's so much love and abundance in our lives, but we still, like you say, there's still an area of, well, but that's not that I want more, but we put more pressure on ourselves to, okay, so I've reached that goal, and instead of celebrating it, it's like, okay, but it's not good enough. It needs to be better. I'm using that as an example. I don't necessarily feel that way, but I'm using that as an example. And that happens a lot, especially around women, doesn't it?
It sure does. And, it comes back to what we've learned growing up, and that, what society has out there, and it's the expectations that we put on ourselves that, we always have to be striving for more, 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 more. How about, we live the best version of ourselves and go after the life that we really want and not worry about any of the rest of it.
And it's also discovering the life we do want beyond those societal expectations, beyond the expectations of our parents, beyond the expectations of our partners even, or our children. And culturally, the expectations around what we should or shouldn't be doing, or what we think we need to do.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the stories that we have grown up, we've sort of taken on board, and those stories kind of hold us back.
absolutely they do because they're playing out in our lives, and they're holding us back, and they're in our thought process. And so one of the things that I work with women on is rewriting those. So rewrite them so that they're your own story. So, and that's what I mean by living by our own story. It's instead of living by all those other things, it's coming back to being your true authentic self and living from that standpoint.
Hmm.
And when we do that,
So,
that's when we're tapping into our courage that we can then do so many things.
and is that what you mean by living out loud? So we're not talking about living out loud as in wearing really loud clothes or going out and being the loudest or shouting and bragging about how amazing we are. That's not that. What do you mean by living out loud?
So living out loud is the title really came from the standpoint of I, for many years, so here I am on a podcast talking away. Uh, many years, I didn't use my voice. We live in a society, you have to talk.
Mhm.
Obviously, you have to talk. But I would have never done this type of thing. And I spoke when I was spoken to. I answered when I was asked a question. It was that kind of thing. And
Mhm.
everything that I said went through my head 10 to 20 times before it came out.
So you're
And that's
filtering. You were
oh yeah.
constantly filtering what you were saying. That must have been exhausting.
It was absolutely exhausting, and it's a horrible way to live. It really is. But I didn't want to make a mistake of what I was going to say because I didn't want to embarrass who I was with.
Hmm.
I want to embarrass myself. And because I truly felt that I was worth less than everyone else. So when I mean living out loud, I mean living as my true, authentic self, using my voice, being here, doing what I'm here to do on the planet at this time, and truly living a life of unlimited possibilities. We have
Hmm.
unlimited possibilities when we open up and start being who we're supposed to, being the best version of ourselves, and seeing that we have choices. When you're in that spot of that feeling worthless or feeling so really full of fear or doubt, shame, all of that, you don't see that you have choices. First of all, most of the time you don't see that you have choices, but
Hmm.
also you you really can't see the possibilities around you because you're just every day is just hard.
And
And
did
so
that
once you
have an impact on your body? Like you're talking, so we know, with around, if we're talking about healing and things, talk about throat chakra, about expressing yourself, and actually heart chakra.
Mhm.
So did you notice back then found yourself being quite poorly? Your health was,
Yes.
you were
So
struggling with your health?
yeah, my health at that time. So, one of the other things about living out loud too is, being standing proud of who you are. And I wasn't. So I gained a lot of weight. I
Hmm.
dressed to hide my body. I, it was all of those things. I was in adrenal fatigue at the time, which is basically, you're overworking your adrenal system.
Hmm.
And, I've been able to really pull my health back into a good spot. There's always more to go on the health front, but
Yeah.
able to do that. And it's interesting that you talk about, the throat chakra and that type of thing, because what I found, and this is one of the things back in those days, I didn't pay attention to what my body was telling me. So it was just I felt awful all the time, but just, because I was in that spot and I just felt ugh all the time. And but now it's that I'm, I have the vibrance, and energy and all of that. But here's the funny part. When I start holding back and not
Hmm.
using my voice now, I have an old injury that starts bothering me. And
Hmm.
that is my right shoulder. I dislocated it many, many years ago. And it's funny because that shoulder starts to bother me when I stop using my voice.
Ah,
So
yes,
as
because
soon
it's yeah,
exactly.
it's all this area here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I never
interesting.
yeah, and I never understood that before, and so every now it doesn't happen too often, but every
Mhm,
now and again, I'm like, "Ooh, where am I not using my voice? Where am I not being all of me?"
mhm.
So,
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's fascinating when when you start coming out when you I'm not gonna say start coming out the other side because I've done a lot of work. But and it is, and it's interesting that you said, Jenny, earlier about the fact that, you still, even though you've done a lot of work, these things still come up.
Mhm,
It took us those things we didn't take them on overnight. They didn't happen like this. They happened over a period of time. So it makes sense. It's going to take time to get to shift them.
mhm. And layers.
And layers, exactly. Because
Yeah.
they're in our subconscious, so they're lurking there. So every now
Mhm.
and then there will be something that happens that triggers you, that another layer comes up and you go, wow, okay, off that goes now.
I thought I dealt with that.
I know, I thought I dealt with that. What the heck?
But yeah, you're right. But then I think as you learn and you do this work, the triggers happen less often and you move through them quicker. And also you're much more aware of, like you say, with your shoulder, it's like, okay, shoulder's hurting. Where am I not expressing myself? So it's always an opportunity to learn and to heal, isn't it? And to release another layer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when even, being where you were before, allowing other people or the stories that you've learnt as you were growing up, at what point did you realize you weren't living out loud or you weren't living the life you were here to live? What was it that sort of tipped you over the edge and thought, this isn't right. Something's not right. This isn't how life is supposed to be.
Absolutely. And for me, and so this is one of the pieces why I do the work that I do now,
Hmm.
is because so I had a life-changing event. I had a long-term relationship that was very unhealthy, and so I always say it's like that whack up the back of the head,
Hmm.
and that happened, and I was devastated, and I had no idea what I was going to do. But the thing that I realized at that point was I didn't know who I was.
Mm.
I was in such a dark spot. I had no idea who I was, and I even it was a dark enough spot. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be here,
Mm.
and so I started going. I decided, okay, I'm going to be here. And to be here, I can't be that person that I was. I need to find a different way. And so I invested in myself and invested in mentors, and I started using my voice like crazy because I needed to talk to people because I needed to figure things out. And
Hmm.
the only way that I could figure them out was to be able to process out loud. I always laugh with my current husband. I always laugh with him because he knows, like, I process out loud. That's who I
Mm.
am. And when I have to process inside, which is what I did in what I call my former life, when I had to process inside, I get into such a negative space because what happens is instead of being able to listen to my heart, my head, what I call inner chatter, other people call it the egoic voice, some people call it monkey mind.
Hmm.
It gets so loud because I can't release things.
Hmm.
So it
And
just sits there and bubbles
there's
and bubbles and bubbles.
there's a difference between internally processing or reflecting. So because sometimes we need that quiet space to go within, don't we, to feel and feel those answers. And I love what you said is you're not in your heart at that point, you're in your head. And when you become aware of that, you become aware of, because your head literally hurts, doesn't it, when you're going to you're either can't concentrate or can't focus, and your head is literally spinning, like you say, the monkey mind, or it's just going round and round in circles. um, and when you're reflecting and coming, going within to find some of the answers, There's a totally different feeling, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, and it's interesting because before, what all I would do is like the internal, and it would be my head. Where
Hmm.
now I crave time to be able to sit and just be in my heart and be quiet and look for those answers that I'm looking for. So to me, that's not processing. That's me looking for the the answers to what I'm going after. What I
Mm,
want to be.
yes.
How do I be? So, one of my questions is pretty much, so I'm a journaler. I journal pretty much every single day. And when I do that, some of that is okay. Show me how to be, like, show me the three things that'll further me on my path today, that will allow me to be the best version of me.
Hmm.
And to be of love and service to the women that I'm here to be of service to, because that's so important. And when
Mm.
you're going at it from that level, so here's the other side of it. When I was back in the old mindset, I couldn't hear what my heart was telling me. I couldn't hear
Hmm.
any of that. All I could hear was the loud, "You're not good as everybody else, you're not worth it," da, 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 all of that stuff. I always say, I could, and I still, to this day, if I allowed it, I could put myself in a puddle on the bathroom floor in like 60 seconds flat with all the horrible negative stuff.
Hmm.
But now, because I I don't let that voice talk anymore, and I listen to my heart, I can hear that coming in. And it actually, the words are very loving, very positive, but they also come through me, as you said, they come through in a different way. So for me, I feel them through this, right here. That's
Hmm.
exactly where I feel the words float through me. And that's, again, it's going to be different for every single person because we're all so unique.
Hmm.
And so that's so, but it's getting to that spot of being able to listen to, and some people would call this your intuition or your gut feel. Like, listen to that. That's the voice that will never lead you astray. That's the voice that will lead you further on the path you're here to be on.
And that feeling, it's like you said, it feels like love, it feels gentle, it feels kind, it feels uplifting, it feels expansive.
It does. Yeah.
That's when you know. And then if it's from the head, and it feels, you feel like you want to shrink, it feels heavy, it feels negative. You might even get, like we were talking about the body, some people feel it in their stomach,
Mhm.
some people feel it in their lower back, and their root chakra, especially around money and security, you might have issues around there. So yes. So other than those stories, what are the three things, or what are the other things, the top three things that hold women back from living that life that they deserve? And we all deserve, we're all worthy of living our dream life. So the stories, I presume, are one thing that we tell ourselves. So what are the others that sort of are the top things that block and stop women from living that life?
So another one is that we we get into that spot of not thinking there's enough for everyone.
Hmm.
So it's really abundance. Abundance is a huge key to this, because, and it's funny when I'm talking to a group of women, I always like, let me tell you a little secret. There is more than enough for everyone on this planet. There really is.
Hmm.
And it's that, and that actually, again, and that comes back to the stories that we've heard, that there's not, but abundance is huge. And so with abundance for me, I work with the gratitude, because when we can get grateful for where we are, what we have, that opens us up, and it also opens us up to being able to see the possibilities around us.
Hmm.
And when you can be in that mindset, then that's when you can be open and you can see the possibilities, and you can start taking steps and making choices towards that. So that's another one. And then the other big one that I deal with a lot with women is about dreaming. because we tend not to dream, or when we do dream, we go after the one that we're pretty sure we can attain. And we don't want to talk about the one that is that great big one. The one that we really want, but we think, oh, it's way too big. We can never get there. I don't know the steps. I don't know any of this. You don't have to know the steps. You just need to be able to dream it. But then from that standpoint, I go a little step further with intentional dreaming. And that is about putting color to the dream, putting smells, feelings, emotions, um, all of that, so that it becomes so vivid. Because what I know is when you're going after a dream, that's pulling you forward. It's also lifting you up. It's also tapping into your courage to go after it, especially the big one.
Hmm.
The attainable ones, yeah, those are great too, but I always like the big ones. Let's go after those ones because those are the most fun. And that really, so in those dreams, really, they need to live in your plan. And once you start having that live in your plan, then money's really becoming a tool to live the life you deserve, the life you want. Because now you're going after what you truly want, as opposed to going, okay, I'm going to get through today. I'm going to pay the bills.
Hmm.
Whatever, I'm going to get through the day and pay the bills. Even for
And
people
that
that are very successful, that's the thinking. Okay, if I can just, this is all I'm going to do.
it's not living, is it?
No, it's not. We're here to have so much fun and joy, and to just and really live and be in that state of, I'm going to say, love and abundance, because that's what it is.
Hmm. And even if you don't feel like you have love and abundance, or you don't, a lot of people don't believe, like you say, the big dream. Like I know quite a few people look at and go, "Oh my God, you're living the dream life. You live in Italy. I could never do that." And well, why not?
Mhm.
If that's your dream, why not? Because
Exactly.
if you can dream it, you can live it.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for saying that, Jenny, because that is so spot on. We wouldn't be able to dream it, especially when we dream it the way I just said, as vibrant and full that way. We would not be able to do that if we can't get there. It's just we stop ourselves because all of a sudden we go, "Oh, I don't know this, I don't know the steps." And but that's because we're looking at it going, we want to go from here to here. And it's like,
Yes,
okay,
like
that's
in one
great.
step.
In one giant step. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to be living in Italy. It takes several steps, and we can't always see the steps. And it's so fascinating because I just had this conversation with a wonderful lady on Wednesday evening, because she's like, well, but I don't know the steps. And I went, you don't have to. I said, it's just like driving a car. If you had to know what was around every single corner before you left your house to go wherever you're going to go, you'd never go out.
I love that analogy.
We don't know what's around the corner. So let's
Hmm.
just go. And, when we find out what's around the corner, then that is the next step, that you make the decision based on what you have at that time. Because that's the other thing that I find a lot is, then when we start taking the steps, we derail ourselves because it's like, well, I made the wrong decision, because if I hadn't known that, I would have made the decision differently. You can't second guess yourself, because this is the
Hmm.
one thing that I know for certain is, I'm not the same person I am today that I was yesterday, because
Hmm.
I've learned. I have more wisdom. I have more
Hmm.
experience. So
Hmm.
I've changed.
Hmm.
And so you can't go back. And so that's actually another huge piece that I use when I'm dealing with my clients. And
Hmm.
that's awareness. Being
Yes.
aware of where you are, being aware of the stories that you're telling yourself. And honestly, the past is the past. You can't change it. So let's just be aware. So with money, let's be aware of that. And awareness plays into it with, what do you spend? How do you spend it? Why do you spend it? Why is
Hmm.
it
That's
a
a
big
big one, isn't
one?
it?
And then how does that fit into what you're bringing in? And it's not about making you right or wrong. It's about finding out where you are. And then that's when I pull in the dreams, because it's like, okay, where do you want to go? And then that the dreams come back into the plan to get there. It's not going to happen overnight, but that's okay. Be on the be on the journey, be on the adventure.
Yes, and look at it like an adventure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Because
because life is an adventure. If you look at it that way, you again, like you said before, we always have a choice. You can either look at it as fearful and stressful, or you can start to look at it as an adventure and start transforming some of that fear into excitement about what is round the corner. Who could I meet? What conversations can I have? So what about with people like I meet quite a lot of women that feel that they can't change or it's too late to change. So what kind of responses, I would imagine some of those responses we've just talked about, but are there other responses for somebody's like, yeah, but that's your life. You can do that, but I can't. It's too late for me, or this is my life. This is it.
and in that situation, that that person, when that's a mindset, that's a
Yeah.
complete mindset. And the way to shift that is to have them start looking at their life in a different way, because it's never too late. I know lots of people that have turned their lives around late in life, that have then, lived, been in their 80s and changed their life. Because it's that, because they've had that doubt and that fear. So it's really about having the conversation and letting them see that there is evidence in their life that they can. Because I'll say it that way. We gather evidence all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so what ends up happening lots of times is we see the evidence that holds us back, that limits us, because that's the easy evidence to see. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
look, oh, you know what? I didn't get all that done. I didn't get, instead of going, holy jumpins, do you know how much I accomplished today? Instead, we focus on what we didn't. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really about changing the language. And so that's actually another thing that I work on with women is, and that's when I'm doing like a bit bigger program with them, I really get them to start shifting the language that they're using. So shifting, anytime that anything negative, shift it to a positive. And sometimes it's only the shift of a word that you can
Mm-hmm.
shift to a positive. And what I've found is when they're doing that and they're doing gratitude, things start to shift. And all of a sudden they start going, oh my gosh, yes, I can. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not, it's not, it's one of those things when you're in that spot, you can't see that you have choices. You can't see that you can change. And I'll tell you, way back, I figured life was just like this.
Mm-hmm. That's how life is. Yeah.
That's the way life is. This is as good as it's gonna get.
Yes.
Exactly.
Not true.
It's not true
Not
at all.
true, everybody.
Not true
All our
at
listeners,
all.
not true.
No. But here's the other thing. I always had this little niggle in the back. There's more to life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us have that, but because of the situation, we just leave it in the background. And so once we get into that spot of really tapping into that, and that's what I talk about, tapping into your courage. It takes courage to do this.
Yes. And that's why people, that's like myself, yourself, why we've invested a lot of time, effort, and money into seeking out experts like yourself to help those people that are struggling, that know there's more, or have that there's a feeling, there's a sense of there has to be more, but not knowing how, or not knowing what, how, or where. And that's why, you know, that's where you come in to help people show them the way as well. Yeah. Because
Absolutely.
we need that. Yeah.
And I thank you for saying that, because it's so important to know you don't have to do this alone. We're not meant to be alone. We're meant to be, especially as women, we're meant to be in community. We're meant to have connections, and it's hard when you're on your own.
Well, how long were you stuck? I know how long I was stuck before I sought help. And, you know, some of my clients, how long, I think it's, you know, a lot of clients are stuck for a good 2 years, 5 years, 10 years,
Oh yeah,
more.
absolutely. Yeah.
So you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to be stuck. You can be working with someone that can nurture and show you and guide you and empower you in how to go from where you are now to activating those unlimited possibilities.
Absolutely.
So, Angela, you have a couple of really amazing gifts. So Angela does this brilliant mastering your money mindset twice a month, and it's an hour's free workshop. And so you can find that through her Facebook link, and that will be included in the description on the podcast and in YouTube. And as well, you offer a wonderful strategy or discovery call, and which you can tell the listeners about in a moment. And the other thing that you've got going on, you regularly hold a 6-week money program, Standing Strong in Your Money. Very, very powerful program with you, and people would connect with you directly to find out more information on that, Angela?
Yes, absolutely. That's the best way, because it's really, you know, I love to have a conversation to make sure that it's the right program for you, and that I can be of assistance and support for you. And so yes, reach out to me at the links that Jenny will put in.
Yes, yeah, I'll share those links. And can you just tell us a bit more about and of course, Living Out Loud, the book. Yeah. So we'll have the link in there for Angela's book. Can you just talk a little bit about, before we go, your 6-week program, Standing Strong in Your Money? Can you give us an idea of what that looks like and what people walk away with?
Sure. So the 6 weeks is really, so we take a deep dive into what I call the 6 pillars that I use. And the 6 pillars are, we've talked about many of them throughout our conversation: awareness, purpose, abundance, clarity, choice, and dreaming. So those are the 6 things that we talk about. And it's 75 minutes every week for 6 weeks. There's some homework that goes along with that. You get 2 one-on-one 30-minute one-on-one conversations with me, so that you can, you know, personalize right down to you, and you come out of it with some really great tools to use going forward. And the clients that have gone through it they've completely changed their outlooks. You know, I had one lady, she was like, oh, I thought coming in this, I was just going to tweak a couple of things. I already kind of knew some of this stuff. And she was like, oh my gosh, my mind is completely changed, and I know I can go after my dreams, and I can achieve even more than what I thought was possible. So it's really about transformation, and it's really about, you know, having that that support and accountability, and having somebody that's there in your corner to let you really expand into a different way of thinking with regards to money, and have it become a tool in your life.
Excellent. And is there more information about that on your website as well?
There is. The best thing is to contact me directly, and so you can do that through my website or through the other links as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, anything else that you'd like to add, Angela?
I would just, you know, I would love to thank you so much, Jenny, for giving me the opportunity to be on the podcast with you, and also with regards to the free strategy session. Just, you know, reach out directly to me, and I'd love to set that up. And I would love if, you know, you let me know that you came to this because of Jenny's podcast, because I would love to be able to shout that out and have that of note, so that Jenny knows as well.
Thank you.
It's the impact of being out there and being of service. And Jenny, thank you so much for doing this, because I've listened to a number of your different sessions, and they've been amazing. And there's lots of fabulous information going out. And I just I'll leave the listeners with this. You truly deserve to live the life that you're here to live. You're a magnificent being, and it's really time to tap into that courage and stand strong in your life. So I hope that there was nuggets of today that really assisted you, and I wish you well.
Thank you, Angela. That's wonderful. Thank you very much for your time and for being here today and sharing your knowledge and some really juicy, informative information. And I look forward to seeing you again. And yes, if you want to connect with Angela, I highly recommend it. The links are below in the description, so you can listen as you listening or watching on YouTube. So if you like what you see, please subscribe, share, like. It helps us to continue bringing you amazing guests and great content. So until next time, have a fabulous day wherever you are in the world, and see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your comments and feedback. And if you've enjoyed it, please click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and feel free to share. Join us for our next episode of the Exponential Potential Podcast. Ignite your potential and thrive in times of great change.